Hey everyone, Matron here bringing you Game 2 of the best of 3 series between WhiteRa spawning as the blue Protoss and his opponent will be NightEnd spawning as the red Protoss. This will be a PvP Game 2 of the best of 3 in the Black Dragon League. These two European players, the Ukrainian WhiteRa versus the Romanian NightEnd. And NightEnd fell to WhiteRa in the first game. WhiteRa used Blink Stalkers very effectively, had some two-prong attacks going, and eventually got up charge lots as well, was able to get on 6 gates and just outproduce his opponent. NightEnd went for some robo play, so he got out a lot of Immortals to try to deal with the Blink Stalkers, and he got out a Colossus or 2, but eventually WhiteRa was just able to overcome him with superior numbers and mobility, and NightEnd fell in that first game, so he's going to need to take the second game. He's going to need to man up and force a Game 3 here to try to take this to the final game, and WhiteRa needs to play nice and safe, perhaps go for some sort of 4-gate here. In the first game he went for a 4-gate, but he actually pulled back. He was not very aggressive at all. So we'll see what he has in store for us in the second game as we see both players getting down the gateway around the same timing. So I imagine we'll have similar openings as last time, gateway, gas, and we'll see what comes out of that as both players sending out their scout right after that gateway. See NightEnd doing a nice job checking for any sort of proxy play here, any sort of cheese. You don't want to lose your second game in a best of 3 to any sort of cheese play. Now we see the probe of WhiteRa moving into the base of NightEnd, so he's going to see the gateway here. There's going to be no cannon play coming. So you see cannon's pretty popular in PvP on this Zelnaga map, as there's a lot of different positions where you can place those cannons. They make it very difficult to defend against, and the game can be over quite easily. But NightEnd just going for more of a standard game here, does have out this gateway. He's not yet getting out the cybernetics core, so delaying there just a little bit. So WhiteRa is able to take a few seconds lead, looks about 10 seconds ahead on that cybernetics core. Both players will have enough gas to start their warp gate tech as soon as the cybernetics core does come up, as well as maybe get out a stalker as well to try to take out the scouting probe of the opposing player. See WhiteRa placing pylons all over the internal base here, as he wants to have good sight, and that pylon's going to allow him to warp in units a little bit closer to NightEnd's base. Also, it's going to show him any sort of probes that might be hiding down here. A lot of times your opponent will hide a probe, hoping to get a proxy pylon and end the game pretty early with some in-base warp-in shenanigans. Now we see a Zealot coming out for both players, as well as a Stalker. NightEnd chronoing out both the Stalker and the Cybernetics core. The Stalker because he wants to get rid of this probe as early as possible. He does not want WhiteRa to know when he puts down that second gas, or how many gates he may be adding. So getting out the Stalker as soon as possible. He will be a little bit psi-capped actually, as he does not have another pylon on the way. So the Stalker does come out, and with one more probe being made, he is psi-capped at 26. We see that WhiteRa is actually a little bit farther ahead. He has the same number of units, the Zealot and the Stalker. They're moving out to the center, and he's actually dropped 2 more gateways, so he'll be going for a 3-gate here. If we check out the base of NightEnd, he's also dropped 2 more gateways. So 3-gate versus 3-gate, NightEnd and WhiteRa have both added the second gas as well. So from here they could go into a 3-gate expand, they could throw down a robo, they could throw down another later gate and go for a delayed 4-gate timing. But right now both players just jostling for the center position. The Stalker of NightEnd having to back away, as there's a Zealot with the Stalker of WhiteRa at this point. Micro is so very important in the early going in this PvP. If you're able to take down a Stalker or a Zealot or 2, then you could crash the front door with just superior numbers of units and take it in an early game. Looks like both players now going for that robotics facility. So we'll have 3-gate robos for both players. It looks like NightEnd coming out with another probe, perhaps to set up some sort of proxy pylon. He's going to try to skirt these towers, at least the rightmost tower, as WhiteRa has a lot of Stalkers now moving out across the field. He wants to check all sorts of places on this map to make sure there are no proxy pylons going up. He's got the Zealots at the top of the ramp along with the Sentry. In case there is some sort of attack on his front door here, he's going to be able to quickly wall off with a force field and use those Zealots to take down any trapped units. WhiteRa continuing to scout, but he has not seen this probe of NightEnd move into the side. At the same time, we do have a probe for WhiteRa. He's going to be checking when his opponent's going to be moving out, and if there's going to be any sort of expansion play. If we check the army tab for both players, it is 800 to 625, and WhiteRa has not only the army advantage, but he also has the robotics bay coming out as well. It looks like he is going for an observer rather than an immortal. NightEnd getting out the immortal first. So if he pushes out with that immortal, he could take an early advantage. Those immortals quite good against stalkers in small numbers, but once that Colossus does come out, it's going to be very difficult for NightEnd to kind of catch up, as we see that the robotics bay on the way for NightEnd as well. It's going to be about 40 seconds behind, so that's about one Colossus he may be behind if both players are constantly producing Colossus. Now we see WhiteRa, pretty good map control at this point. He's got the towers, he's pulling back here as he does see the forces of NightEnd move out, and NightEnd pushing in here with a probe. He may be trying to get a pylon set up here, but it looks like WhiteRa is going to shut that down immediately. In fact, that was a scouting probe, and I'm not sure what kind of scouting information NightEnd was able to get. He did see the robo, so he knows that Colossi could be coming out shortly. WhiteRa does have this observer out, or making his way into its opponent's base, so he's going to be seeing the robotics facility and the Colossus coming out for NightEnd as well. And it looks like NightEnd actually going for a Nexus, so he's got about a halfway complete expansion here. So we saw in the first game WhiteRa actually went for the expansion first, and this time NightEnd going for this fast expansion, able to take down WhiteRa's observer. So very good play by NightEnd there, swinging back in with his own observer before he sends it out. WhiteRa putting a pylon by his back door here. He wants to make sure that nothing's going to be sneaking back there as he gets down his own Nexus. And now if we check the army tab, it is 1500 to 1200, now 1500 to 1500. WhiteRa pushing out with his first Colossus there. One Colossus for NightEnd as well, but he does have out this immortal. So if he's able to target fire down some stalkers or that Colossus, he could take the advantage here. No immortal for WhiteRa, but he's got a lot of zealots. Zealots doing very well against the stalkers or the immortal for NightEnd. So I think this will be coming down to micro mostly, as the armies are pretty even at this point. We see WhiteRa preparing perhaps a proxy pylon with this probe as it does come down here. And NightEnd actually setting this probe on a bit of a patrol, so he's going to be able to see these units as they come through here, making his way into the base of WhiteRa once again with this observer. So he's going to see that Thermal Lance is still on the way. He may actually be able to get the timing of Thermal Lance as it does finish. He sees that it may finish there, and that could be the timing that WhiteRa was waiting for, as two Colossi out on the field now. The armies are again pretty even, 2100 to 2100. NightEnd does have the slight advantage, as he does have 38 harvesters to 31. We see WhiteRa does have the proxy pylon down, warping in some units, and he will be the aggressor here. NightEnd preparing his own units for defense, and now losing a few units, needs to back away and attack with his whole army at once. WhiteRa getting a few opening volleys from those Colossi out initially, and if we check the army count, it looks like it's still pretty even. The Zealots doing battle in the front, and it looks like now 3 Colossi out for NightEnd, so they're going to try to focus down the remaining gateway units of WhiteRa, but WhiteRa is going to have more and more units coming out from that proxy pylon. And it looks like WhiteRa right now is going to be able to take on the probes of NightEnd. He needs to run those away, as we see more gateway units coming for WhiteRa, and another Colossus as well. So 3 Colossi for both players, but just no gateway units for NightEnd right now. The few units that he did warp in, quickly taken down by those Colossi from WhiteRa, as WhiteRa also doing a nice job here microing back the low Colossi, and NightEnd doing the same. Now 4 Colossi out for NightEnd, and he's going to be pushing in here, but still those gateway units are just getting smoked as soon as they try to warp in. So it looks like this Nexus down to just a few HP, and WhiteRa may be able to take that down. Still 4 Colossi against 3 is going to be very difficult to handle, even though a lot of the Colossi for NightEnd very low on HP and shields, doing a nice job again of microing the low HP Colossi to the very back, and WhiteRa is going to be kind of happy just to take down that one Nexus. He does have the probe advantage, 34 to 29 here, and NightEnd's going to have to try to rebuild that Nexus, or just build up an army and go for some sort of all-in. He knows his opponent's probably expanded behind this attack, and it looks like he's pushing forward with these 4 Colossi, so taking back map control a little bit. If we check the APM for both players, 183 to 138, so WhiteRa a little bit lower APM there, but he did come with kind of a better unit composition. He was able to take down a few of those units of NightEnd, before the battle even got underway there, or a few shots from those Colossi, and then the gateway units of NightEnd just evaporated quickly under those beams of the Colossi of WhiteRa. WhiteRa sending out another probe, trying to get a bead on those Colossi. He's going to see that they're midfield. Now we have 5 Colossi versus the 4, so WhiteRa does have the advantage. If we check the army tab, it is 3050 to 2500. And it looks like NightEnd will be countering here, going for some sort of aggression. He's got 5 Colossi of his own. If we check the unit counting station, it's still pretty even. WhiteRa taking a few extra shots there. Those are not shots that you want to take. Taking down that observer, now losing some stalkers here. He does not want to lose these stalkers. So losing some extra units there that he really did not want to lose. Any sort of battle here, every stalker going to be oh so important. As we see the Colossi of NightEnd poking in here, going to try to get a few volleys on the gateway units of WhiteRa. In the production tab, it looks like we have another Colossi coming out for WhiteRa, and it looks like NightEnd will be pushing in here, and this is sort of an all-in. He has no more expansion behind this. And now if we slow down the action a little bit, watching this micro, we see the Zealots of WhiteRa caught behind the Stalkers a little bit. They're not able to do anything now, just getting to the Stalkers. The Zealots of NightEnd were able to do a decent job up against the Colossi of WhiteRa, and they're actually able to take down this Colossi with 3 Colossi left for NightEnd and only 1 for WhiteRa. As we see these Colossi of NightEnd just ripping apart these Stalkers, and more units coming out for NightEnd, doing a nice split here with these Colossi. As you see the Colossi making sure that they're far enough away that they do not take additional damage when one of their friends there does get targeted by the Colossi of WhiteRa. So a nice split there, and he's got 3 very low HP Colossus here. And looks like he's going to be able to focus down the one last Colossus of WhiteRa, so we speed it back up to faster. And now if we check the army counting station, it's 1200 to just 25. Not really sure. I think that's just the observer that WhiteRa has, and WhiteRa's down to just 200 resources. He's not going to be able to come with much more than gateway units, which are just going to evaporate under the pressure of these 3 Colossi. He's going to need to use this 1 Colossus to try to take down all these low Colossi. A lot of them very low shields, NHP 1 very low, and it looks like it will stay up. So NightEnd just sticking on these 3 Colossi here, 1 down to 7 HP, the other down to just 5 HP, and they're just going to be able to take down that pylon as more units try to warp in for WhiteRa here. If we check back in the base of NightEnd, it looks like WhiteRa has placed a pylon, so he could warp in some units there, trying to be a bit of a distraction. As we see WhiteRa poking in, focusing down one of those Colossi that was very low, the 7 HP one, but the 5 HP one now rapidly gaining shields. As we see more and more gateway units coming in for NightEnd. He's got some Zealot pressure back in his mineral line, so actually taking all of his probes now to the northern position here. If we check the army counting station, is still 2325 to 625, and now he's pushing into the main of WhiteRa. WhiteRa has this few Zealots back in the main of NightEnd, but they're just chasing these probes back northern here. We see that red line moving across the base, or across the map. Now the probes of WhiteRa being pulled off the line here, trying to take down the Immortals and the Stalkers, but the Colossi just ripping them apart here. And now the probes of NightEnd joining the fray. They're going to start focusing down some buildings here, and we should have a GG shortly from WhiteRa. He's got no more probes left. This is the last round of gateway units, and it looks like those will go down as well. And WhiteRa having a GG out of this second game. NightEnd, kind of a weird turnabout there. Actually lost his natural, lost almost his entire army besides just a few Colossi, and then he was able to counter. I'm not really sure how he was able to do it. He must have had some superior micro there. We saw the Stalkers were kind of getting in the way of the Zealots of WhiteRa, so the Zealots could not get up to the Stalkers or the Zealots of NightEnd until the very end of that battle, and then he did a nice job spreading out his Colossi as well, so they did not take the splash damage from WhiteRa's Colossi, and then he was able to save them, as a few of those Colossi did have very low HP, 7 and 5, and those are some baller Colossi, 14 kills, 20 kills, and eventually streaming in with these probes as well, as after WhiteRa was able to get a probe in his mineral line. So pretty interesting game 2 here. Game 3 is on the way. If you're looking for more StarCraft 2 action, make sure you check out my channel, Matron StarCraft at youtube.com. Do StarCraft analysis, commentary, and started coaching this past week as well. Had a lot of success with my first few students, so if you're interested in that, check out the details on the side of my YouTube page. As always, thanks for watching this one. Take care.